art students. Brian Proctor, the art teacher, back again with another video. And today we are going to talk about shading, not adding shadow, but actual shading, because I know there's a lot of you guys out there that love to draw and they want to do actual shading. So I'm going to show you guys how to do shading, or I'm going to show you guys how I do shading, how I taught myself to do shading the easiest way possible. So this is going to be probably the first of 3 videos. I'm going to do a beginner, an intermediate, and an advanced shading, because a lot of people might have shading down to a bit, and then they want to know how to do a better shading. So this is what I'm going to use initially. I wanted to get something that's big enough and not too difficult for you beginners. So what we're going to do is we're going to start out with this picture right here, and then we're going to transfer over to this picture here. And this picture is also in my 360 book, which is this is not the copy. I made a copy. It's in my 360 book. This is this one, the powerhouse picture. If you have the book, it's on 93. And the reason I keep using the book is there is no reason. Let me put a pause on that one. The reason I keep using this book is because, pause or comma, there is no reason to buy something and not get its full potential out of it. If I buy a car and I drive it one time, that's a waste. So if you buy a book or something that has knowledge in it, and especially if it's got multiple pictures that you can use that thing over and over and over again. So use the book. It has a lot of potential, a lot of things that you can do with it. This is the copy. I made a copy of the picture in the book so that I can do it. I was going to color in the book, but then I didn't want it to be, I had to keep turning the book. So this is why I say you can make copies from the actual pages of the book and do it. But there's some things you can actually use the book for, or actually color into the book. All right, so this is the copy that I did. And of course, as I say, when you do red pencil, when I use red pencil and I photocopy it, it does not come out when you copy it on black and white. Red and blue pencil, they will not photocopy. So as you see, I have a ton of pencils here. So let's talk about pencils. When you are ready to shade or do your shading, you're going to need some pencils. So before I told you, when you draw something, it doesn't make a difference what type of pencil you use. You know, you can when you write your name or do whatever, you don't search for a particular pencil to do that because there's no need. You know, if you have the ability to draw circles and so forth, then it doesn't make a difference what type of pencil you use. But if you're doing specific things with pencils, then you need to know which pencil is best to use, like shading. So I have some different pencils here. We're going to the writing pencils. This is like H2. This is usually the one I go for the most, H2. And there are different numbers. If you didn't know, if you are a true beginner, you have H2, I think 4, 6, 8. I don't know if there's an H3. H means it's just a hard lead. It's a hard lead. And all the H pencils write very lightly. And that's what you want to do when you start out drawing anything. If you decide to buy these professional pencils, you can use these mechanical pencils too. Some of these have 2 things. They have the size of the lead, and then they have the shade of the lead. So let me do this first. This is H2, and I think I have an H. This is another H2. This is an H4, and I think this is a B2. So this is definitely darker. The H2, the higher, the darker. So that's an H2. So that's an H4, and this one is a B. Now, when you get to the B, 2B. When you get to the B, just think of black, okay? This is really, really dark. 2 is your lightest, and I think they might go to 8. So this is the B, and you see the difference between the 3. So whenever you start drawing, you want to start out with your H2, and what is this, H4? Yeah. And then I think it's an H6. But I mean, they get to the point where there's not that much difference. If you have hand control of your pressure, if you can draw, you know, light enough, then it will match this color. But a lot of people don't draw light, so it's best to start out light anyway. And the one thing about this the B's, is that it smudges, because the lead is softer than the H's. So it's very hard to smudge that unless you just kind of have greasy fingers and you work hard on it. So just remember, if I'm shading and the whole thing with a B2 and I'm resting my hand across part of it, it can smear. So now we have our mechanical pencils. This this is an HB pencil. This is kind of what you use. This is not kind of, this is what you use in school. Any school pencil is going to be usually an HB. And you can always tell because they have the numbers right here. So if you buy a pencil and you look right here on the end, where's my camera? It'll give you the hardness, H or B. And the HB is kind of like in between the two. What is it? HB. It's dark enough, but it's light enough at the same time. So, you know, that's because it's got that B in it. It's really close to that. Now, mechanical pencils. Some mechanical pencils you can buy, like this is one of the ones that I use. This is a 07, which means this is the thick lead. I'm looking, yeah, I can see. This is the thickness of the lead is an 07. I think this was one, maybe an this is a little thicker. This might be an 08. You can buy the professional ones with thicker, what do you call this thing? Lead. You knew it, Brian. Thicker lead. I tend to get the ones like a 05, but I bought a set and it was like a 5 or something and a something else, 3 or 4 different lead sizes. And you can buy the lead with these and you can take it out and you put the lead in the back here. So when you run out, you can always go get lead versus like these things, which are disposable. Once you run out of lead, you just throw it away. And some of these have the numbers on them as well. But when you look in the package, it'll tell you, you know, the size 07. And I think that's a number 2 pencil, which is basically another one of these, your school pencils. And it's dark. Now, the one thing that I wouldn't, would do, this is a number 2 as well. I think maybe the standard, basic standard number 2, but this is what is this? This lead is a 9, whereas this lead is a 7. So this thicker lead, thinner lead. Now, the one thing about these mechanical pencils, I would not try to do shading on them because when you start shading, if you sharpen your pencil and you shade, that point is going to kind of go away. That point is going to go away, but as it goes away, you're turning your pencil to have that edge that you need to continue. Whereas these really won't do that. These are so small and fine, it's hard to do. And then when you have to bring out some more, you're ending up with the wrong edge, or you're ending up on the different edge that you left off on. Whereas these, you can keep going with it because you can turn the pencil, rotate the pencil as you do it, and you will still have that edge that you need, or that firmness, or that pressure that you need to continue. So, of course, you see that this is a mess because this is an H2. I would not use this for shading unless I'm doing my shadow in the shading, which we'll get into later. So I would stick with the B's, the H's first. H2, H4, H6. I wouldn't go no higher than an H6, but get H2. Get an H2. All right, so back again. I had to cut it because my neighbors are burning their grass and old branches, and the young cat is out there just pouring gasoline on top of the wood like water, and I heard the boof, you know, from where he lit it. So I just want to make sure this guy's not running around on fire and that my house catches on fire at the same time. All right, so let's get into it. First thing you want to do when you start shading, or when you start learning to shade, since this is the beginner video, I'm going to show you some ways to do this. First of all, get your HB pencil. If you don't have an HB pencil, then that's fine. Use whatever you have. It's all about pressure. How much pressure are you going to put down on your pencil when you draw? And you want to draw a couple rectangles. And you can draw a bunch of rectangles. And in the beginning, don't make them this fat. I want to make it a little thinner. Make it a little thinner, make it longer. Because the bigger the picture you have, the steadier you're going to have your hand moving, and the steadier you're going to have the pressure, the amount of pressure you use. So you have these rectangles. You can do something. You don't have to, but since I'm just thinking about it, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And I'm using a pencil, and I know that I'm not going to be able to see. So I'm going to have to turn my light on to make up for the reflection of this pencil. Hopefully that won't be too bad on you guys to see. So what you want to do is you want to have this. Mary said, don't make it so thick in the beginning, and just do this. Just you want to all the way down. You want to shade it. Don't worry about going out the line. This is why I did the black, so I can see when I go out the line. You can just keep going all the way down, shading. And what this is going to do, this is going to help you to keep that pressure, steady pressure, so you won't be too dark here and then you go back to a light here. And it also helps with the blending, or definitely helps with the blending. Again, this is why I said you don't want to get something so big, and if I did something like this, it's going to be a lot, especially if I'm a beginner. It's going to be a lot of lines. So just make several boxes thin like this, and then you're just practicing to keep that, because you don't want lines inside here. Let's see if I can zoom in. You want it to be as uniform as possible. You want it to be one shade. And when you use something like this, let's do this. Number one, it's darker, and two, it's easier to see where your open lines are, where you see the white in between, because of the point that it is. It's a big difference between that point and this point, because you have all of this lead that you can use to twist it and roll around, and you still have this, but this kind of like wears out real quick, and you have to get more, and then it starts, once you click it and more comes out, it starts at a point, a fine point, and you really don't want a fine point when you're doing shading. It's almost like you want it like a brush where it can go smooth versus a pen where it's just like one line. So that's why you have to do that. And you're not drawing like this, you're kind of drawing from the side, using almost the side of your pencil. This is why in art school they tell you to hold your pencil way down here. I could never do that. I could never do that. I like to choke up on my bat before I swing. So yeah, it's gonna be like this. But I'm not drawing down. I am drawing from as much side as I can, twisting my hand up comfortably, not drawing down like this, twisting my hand up as comfortably as I can, and still keeping some edge, not the point, an edge on the paper. Okay, now I would do that, and I would practice that several times, and then from there, where did my little pen go? I would do something like this. I'm gonna make this even thinner. Now let's just say I have this. Let me do this real quick. This is gonna be messy, but I'm going to do it real quick. By doing this, you will remember the amount of pressure that you're putting on that paper, and that is kind of the most important thing. So I have this. Now, this is all, let's just say this is all one tone without the whites inside. If you want to get it perfect, then you can go the other way, making it even lighter, or not making it even lighter. When I say lighter and darker, I'm talking about the pressure that you put on your paper, or you put on that pen. Okay, so let's say one shade. You get that, then you start at the bottom, and then you just add a little more pressure at the bottom, and then you ease off the pressure, say like halfway through it. So let's do this. Let's go. And now I start to ease off the pressure, and it kind of fades back into that light. And you can do that again and again and again. It's just practicing the amount of pressure you put on your pencil. Now, if you switch to, what is that? That's the H2. Let's go to the H4 and go the opposite way. So H4 is going to go on just a little bit darker to eliminate you having to deal with the pressure, to putting that pressure on your paper. So we're going to go, and then we're going to start easing up on the pressure. I'm going to do it again. Go and ease up on the pressure, because you don't want the line, like you have a light line here and then your dark line starts right here. You don't want that unless that's what you're trying to go for. But when you're trying to do a professional picture, you want that shade to translate into a darker or lighter smoothly. Move out the way, pencils. So as I go down, I want to ease up on that pressure. And it's okay to go back again over it. But when you go back over again, you want to ease up on the pressure a little more, or it's going to get darker where you don't want it to get darker. And you do this over and over again before you start your picture. You want to be able to have that thing just kind of flow into that. Now, if I use it, where's my little dark pencil? There's no point. So let me get this started. So I'm here and I'm trying to like get an edge, because you don't want to point. You don't want to get down on that point. You want that edge like that. So if I go from this one to this, again, pressure, pressure. So I'm going to start here, and automatically it's just going to start out darker. And then I want to start lightening it up, lightening it up, lightening. Don't say it again. You'll never say it again. I'm going to lighten up. I'm going to ease up on the pressure, okay? So if I really wanted to go darker, I can either put more pressure on this B2B, or I can get a darker B pencil. Now, I might have a whole set of pencils in there somewhere, but I'd have to tear it apart again. So let's do this one. Let's flip this one over and do this so you'll be able to see it correctly. Hopefully this light is not really messing up anything. So right off the bat, you see how dark that is. So again, I want to go, and as I go up, I want to ease up off the pressure of the pencil. And it's all about pressure. I don't care what people say. It's going to be the pressure that you bear down on that pencil. Because if I bear down really dark or really hard, it's going to be like that. You know, so when you draw, you want to draw as light as possible. Even when you do a regular drawing, you want to draw as light as possible. All right, so 19 minutes on that. Let us go to shapes. And this is kind of just like what I did in the last video when we talked about shapes. Let's just do this circle. I'm going to make them small, and we're going to do this to take up time. So we won't take up a lot of time. Ink it just because I can ink it again. Now, as I stated in another video, life is just a bunch of shapes. Your video monitor, television is rectangle. Your cell phone's rectangle. Your cups, your glasses, your mugs are just cylinders. So once you master those shapes, there's nothing you really cannot draw. So did I say that right? Nothing that you won't be able to draw. Cannot draw. Yeah. Anyway, so let's do this. We have our shapes. Unlike doing comics, when you do comics and you try to ink something, I'm gonna see if I have something. I don't have anything right available, an old drawing. You tend to, let's just use this guy here. We're gonna find our light and our shadow. We're gonna find our light. Our light source equals our shadow. So let's just say if light's coming here, this is going to be a shadow. So if I'm inking, it's going to look like this, and then I might have the feathering come like that, and that determines the roundness in comics, especially if the person's dressed. A lot of times in comics, we'll have lines, some kind of lines that's going to show that this is round, maybe like some kind of arm strap or wristband, something like that. And that shows that, okay, this thing is round, even though I have just solid shadow here and a little solid shadow here. But then my lines show that this thing is curving around like that. So that's how you do when you ink comics. But when you shade with a pencil, it's a whole lot different. This is a whole lot different. So let's get back to doing the shapes, because you have to have your light and your dark. Now, to determine This is a 4. Let's do a circle. Let's do a circle. How can I say this? Let's do this. To make something round, unlike comics where we just do like this, and then here's my thing, and this is, and you say, okay, the light is here and the shadow's there and it's round. When you shade, both sides are going to be dark. Both sides are going to be dark, and it's going to be light, unless you're doing some really, really Picasso type shading. So let me do this real quick, and I think I will speed up these shading parts, or maybe not. Okay, so this is my solid color. And when you shade, most times you do want to have a solid color, unless you're good enough to determine where your whites are and leave an opening for your whites. But in the beginning, you won't know how to do it, so I will show you how to do it later. Okay, so this is my solid color right here. Now this is flat. This is flat. This could be a board or something on the table, and you can go back and forth, but remember the pressure that you put on your pencil. If you say, oh, I still see some streaks, and you want it to be perfect, just go over it again and again, go up and down, left and right, cross, cross, like that, until you get that final shade. And again, it's about how much pressure you put on your pencil. It's not how slow you go or how fast you go. It's the pressure you put on that pencil. You might see another shading video and they'll say something different, but trust me, this is how I learned. All right, this is how I taught myself. Nobody showed me. All right, now we have this. Now, if I had used H2, it would have been a little better for this, but I didn't, so I used H4. Now, to make something round, you're going to have to, just the same way we did this. We're going to make this in dark. Let me do an H just to make it, or B, just to make it a little quicker. We're going to have it dark on one end, and it's hard for me to see. And kind of fade out. Make it a little darker and fade out, ease up on the pressure. And then we're going to have the same thing on the opposite side. And ease out on the pressure. And that will start to make your object round. And since the body is mostly cylinders and circles, when you're doing the body, you're going to have to be able to do that and leave your light right there, that light source right there in the middle, or the lightest part right there in the middle. And I'm going to actually go even darker on the edges. And the more I work with that, the more rounder it's going to become, or it's going to seem. And when you do this, you're thinking about your arms and your legs. This is exactly what you're going to have to do to make stuff round. Darker and fade out. And again, the pressure, you can do it up and down, you can do it sideways, but I am really easing off on the pressure here so I can see what I'm doing. And then go a little darker if I need to on the ends. Yeah, now you can actually see right here, this is what I'm saying about pressure. If you wanted to make it perfect, you can go back with your lighter pencil and just blend in this edge right here. But I'm not going to stay all day on trying to make this perfect. I want you to understand the steps you take. I can go sharpen this pencil and then get right down in the corners and make it even better. So let's work with the circle. So with a circle, the whole thing is you definitely gonna have to find a light source, and you're gonna work around that light source. So let's say my light source is right here. I'll put that there. So I'm going to get this. Now this is my light source, so I'm gonna try and really not go through it, but I'm gonna go through the light source. Let's just go through it, just knowing that this is my lightest point. And I'll show you what you can do later, but you still need to know where that is, where that little light is hitting. And it can't be really on the edge, because you want your edges dark. All right, so since this is my light source here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this. I'm going to say how far my shadow is going to come out before it starts to lighten up. So I'm going to do this right off the bat, and then I'm going to ease up on that pressure. And bring it out, and it's going to be the same over here. You just won't have such a big edge. But remember, when something's round, any kind of round, it's going to be dark on one side, dark on the other side. It might not be as dark on both sides, but it's got to be a little shade on one side and shade on the other side. And that brings out roundness in anything, any object. And because I'm doing this very, very light, it might be really hard for you guys to see. This should not have been as dark a circle. Just do a light circle so that you will kind of know where your light source is going to be. All right, so I've got this, and then I want to kind of like blend it here. And again, it's all about pressure. And this is why it's gonna be a 3-part video, at least maybe 4 parts, because I want to really get to this, but I don't want it to be that long. So that might be the next part from this. This is definitely will be a practice for you guys. So my circle that looks like an egg, I'm going to use since it's going to be darker over here and lighter over here, but there's still a darker edge. This is going to be the darkest point here. And then I'm going to ease up on that pressure when I come up here. And then up here. This is why you should fill up your paper with doing this before you even start to draw your picture. Because the shading is a lot of work, and you don't really want to mess up on shading thinking, oh, I got it. And then you don't have it and you mess up your picture. That is just the worst feeling when you spend like an hour or so on a picture and you mess it up and you get frustrated and you decide not to do it again. It's just, this is why a lot of artists don't become, or pre-artists don't ever make it to the top of the art game, because they give up. They just freak out and they give up. So you see these lines here, I can go the opposite way and try to blend them in with light pressure. Now, had I not had this circle, you would see where this light source is at. The circle should have been very, 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 very light, or not there. But I wanted you guys to know where that light circle source is, where the light is hitting. And this is something you can do when you need a really light source, a really lighter area, is just erase. And then you have a brighter area. Like if I needed to do a light line right here, or a light is hitting my object right there, just erase. But you have to erase in the right spot. You can't erase like in the dark area and then this is going to be light. You have to erase in the lightest area, which should have been the top. But imagine if this was like the shoulder of somebody's, the shoulder delt of somebody's arm, and you shaded it, but you wanted some light source to be there because maybe the guy's oiled up or he's sweaty, or it could be like a shiny type of material. You just start erasing some of it. All right, so practice that. This is a 31-minute video. Let me do a little of this first. I said I'm going to try to do a 10-minute video. I don't understand how people can do that, but you know, that's just this. So let me work with one of these arms first. And the thing is, before you even start to curve the muscle, you have to understand the basic. The whole thing is going to be like this. You know, the arms and legs are going to be like this, except the difference is, okay, let's say this is your curve. This is the circle. This is your curve. You have your shade right here. The difference is between that is it's going to come up. A lot of times in the muscle, it's going to go down. It's going to come up, go down, come up, and go down. So you're just doing this basically, depending on the angle of the shape you're doing. You're doing this or this. And this is going to be the lighter point. This is going to be the darker point. This is going to be shaded to light, dark, shaded to light, dark, shaded to light. And we'll get into that when we start to do this guy right here, which is probably the next video. So let me quickly shade this guy, and I'm going to either cut it or do a fast motion as I'm shading this guy. I'm not going to shade the whole thing, but just stick with the arms. So let's do this. Let's get this blue out of here first. Okay, let me pause right here. Now, when you have a large area, it's best to go one direction the entire area. Let's say this, if I'm doing this, I'm gonna go this direction, the entire area first. Now, I'm not trying to get everything so perfect in this one, but I want to go the entire area. That way, when I go another way, it won't really overlap. That's the word I'm trying to say. So if I did something like this, and I got tired of going that way and halfway across, I'll do this. You can see that overlap right there, and it won't be smooth. So just go the same direction all the way. Then if it's not smooth like you want it, then you can turn it over and go all the same direction all the way again. Like you see that line right here? That's because I stopped and I went over. And that's what happens when you don't go all the way in the same direction. It won't be smooth, and then you'll end up turning it this way, this way, this way, this way. And then it could get a little darker than you want overall initially. Because that first shade is basically the color of whatever. Let's just say that's his skin color. That's his natural skin color before light and shadow hits it. So you want to keep that as light as possible, right? Already you can see that's darker than that. So if this is a guy with no shirt on, now I have to make this arm dark as that. So you always want to go in the same direction first. And remember, you're not using a point. After a while, it kind of flattens out, and you want to stay on that flattened piece. Go the same direction first, all the way. Same amount of pressure. You can go back down if you need be, but remember your pressure, because you don't want that to be darker than the rest. And if you have to go over here, you should have less pressure going this way. And if you need to, you go this way, and even less pressure. And at the end of this, we're going to do a color. I'm going to do a color. Actually, we'll use some color pencil, and we'll do a coloring and showing you, but we're basically using the same techniques. So now we have this, and it's the same way with the cylinder. Let's go this way first. I know I just said go one way, but I just changed it. I broke the rules. So I'm gonna go this way. I'm gonna go dark here and ease up on the pressure. Ease up on the pressure. Go again. Ease up on the pressure. So same thing here. Dark, ease up on the pressure. So my light, if my light is right here versus being in the middle, I want to go dark here and ease up real quick. Whereas this one, I'm gonna go dark, stay dark, and start easing up somewhere over here, because this is where my light is gonna be. It's gonna be hitting versus right in the middle. So if your light was hitting even higher, you still wanna have a dark edge, but you wanna ease up really quickly. So in other words, you won't have a lot of dark down here. You just have just a little bit. But for this, I wanted to get this done so that in this video you can see what I'm saying once we put it all together. All right, so going this way, and I'm easing up as I come up, and more pressure down here. And this is my H2. I'm doing all this with an H2. So you want to stay with that same pencil until you can't get any darker, and then you move to another pencil. All right, what's falling down on my table? Same thing here. So I'm going to go this way. Since I'm going long ways, it's easier, it's quicker to go long ways than short ways. Dark, fade out. And when you do the body, you take one section at a time. I can shade this whole thing, but then I'm going to work with one section at a time. One section, one section. We'll get into that in the next video. But this is good practice. Draw a figure, an open figure like that, and you practice your blending with these pencils, or your pressuring. And I'm seeing the light source is going to be right here high up, so it's going to be darker here and fade off real quick. So let's go. Let's use one of these pencils. These I don't start out with one of these regular pencils, the HB pencil or your school pencil, but it's really good for using your kind of like your final shadows. And in the end drawing, we'll get into that. So same thing. Vary that pressure. And I might have to pull out my pencil set. I know I have a pencil set somewhere. And then you can see it's starting to get round. And it's the same thing with the body here. If you just see this as one oval, same thing, cylinder, cylinder, circle, circle, and you follow those rules. Where is it? Let's go a little darker, knowing that I'm going to probably like ease out right here. And if this is a circle, it would be the same thing as this. The same way I did this, you're going to use that, and maybe because your light is going to be darker here and lighten up there. So let's just do this. Let's figure out. And again, long strokes. A little more pressure to make it a little darker. A little more pressure, easing up on the pressure. A little more pressure, easing up. And as I say, use your pencil until you can't use it anymore. Till you say, okay, this is as dark as this thing is going to get. Then you switch up to a darker pencil. Or you could just be bold and just go from a darker pencil right off the bat. I think this is probably as dark as this one's going to go without ruining my paper. So I'm going to go for a darker pencil. And I'm going across it, but I'm also varying that pressure. And again, I'm varying that pressure. I can actually do it right here a little bit more. And as I said, don't start on your professional piece until you are comfortable with this, because you will ruin your picture really quick. All right, let's do this H and then go maybe to a B. So here, dark, and I'm gonna fade out. Dark, fade out with the pressure, fade out. So I'm gonna go this way because I am making this round. Very light pressure. Again, very light pressure, except for right here because I want that to be darker. And if it's not, then you blend it. If you can see that and you don't really want to see that line, go back, find your edge, and then just kind of blend that in, And it's really hard to do large open spaces. It will be in the beginning. Really hard to keep that fade right. I'm adjusting my seat. And where is this one here, right here. So now when we get to this again, you're going to have like your shadows and overlapping and so forth and so on. So this right here is going to be like an overlap right there. So I can actually draw a line like that and then shadow that, because that's going to be a solid shadow. And then I can do this fade, do the dark right here again. And then the pressure, just kind of vary that pressure to where it's getting rounder and rounder. Same thing here. If I know it's a hard shadow, which is a line, just like I did in my other video, and then going to dark right around its edge, and then fade it, or pressure. So remember, when I say fade, I'm talking about how much pressure you're putting on that pencil. To bring it around, and it's very lightly, because this as soon as it touches, it's going to put a darker line down there. So you want to very gently do that, and you round it off. And remember, if you see that line, too much of a line of a separation, go back with your light pencil and kind of blend that in. Now, if I had like a B, what is this, B2? B2, yeah, or 2B. Continued. And this here, let's do this. I'm gonna make a really hard line. Fade that in, fade it out. This as well. And then you see it's starting to become round. Now, when you put the chest and so forth in there, you're gonna go, as I said with this, is you're gonna go in and out with the shadow. Bring it down, Brian. It's gonna go in and out with that shadow, being dark to light, to light, to dark, to dark, to light. And this is just chopping it in half, and I'm just showing you how it's going to be. So, but once you get this part down, let's do this face and this neck just because. And I'm just going to stay with the dark. Once you get this part down, then the rest is easy, because this is your basic, because everything has your basic shadow, light, shape. Let's look at this pen for a second. Let's turn this light out so I can get some different light. This is black. This is the wrong thing to use. Forgive me. So everything's gonna have its basic light. Let's see with this thing here. It has your basic light. This is gray and black. Now, because of the planes of this, you see a different shade, because this sticks up right here. This is going to catch the most light. This is why you have this light right here, and because the light is right here. And as it goes down, it gets darker. Same thing here. As it goes down, it gets darker. As this is the highest point. Well, this is about the highest point. But as it goes down, it's going to get darker. You see how dark it is right here, and then dark it is here, because that is actually a slope, a mountain. And right here is the highest point. Same thing here, because of this is curving around this way. This is actually going to be darker down here. It comes up. This is an edge with the light on it, because it's the highest point of that. And then it gets a little higher, but this is black. You can't really see that light. And then it goes around again. And that's going to be the same thing when you start doing the figure. Let's say if I turn this way, you see this is the highest point. It's going to shade out down here. And anything that's kind of a flat is going to have that flat flat shade. My brain just stopped. And you will see that light right in that cut. Right in that cut, it's going to be a definite difference. It's going to be light on one side and definitely dark. So if you're doing a box or a chair or something that has more flatness to it, it's going to be more like that. But if you're doing something that's round, like the top of this, let's see if I can do something like this. It's going to be dark here, come up to light, and go dark again. So let's get this. And this is bad because I shouldn't use this pencil, but I want to kind of keep this video going, or keep this video kind of short. And then if I did the head again, we're going to say where my light is. Let's just say it's over here. So I'm going to do dark over here. So now you have that roundness. Now let's say if I add some shadow, shadow's still going to be shadow of that face. It's going to be darker here and fade out more here. So it's going to be one darker color than the skin. It's definitely going to be darker than this and this skin, the face skin and the shoulder skin. And of course, I would never use this bead to do that. And then you want to have it darker right here, the close as it's going to be darker under the chin and fade out to lighter as it goes down. This is why I would never do an entire picture just using an H or B. And get that edge like so. Darker and lighter. And the same thing, when you start adding the muscles to it, let's just do this. That muscle is going to be round, and we'll get into that in the next video, but I'm just giving you some pointers as we go. Light, and then it's going to be dark here, because this is the bottom of that muscle, and it's going to fade up and fade out, or pressure, less pressure. And because this is going to go in and come up again, it's going to be the same way with that, darker here and lightens up here. But you'll be able to see the difference between it going in and coming back out. So there's a lot of variation on the pressure you use. Depends on the shape you use. But once you get the basic flow or the basic first tone down, it makes it a lot easier to do everything else. So if I put a curve right here, let's just say this is the bicep, and this is a bad example, but I'm just kind of showing you because I'm using this dark pencil. Same thing, it's going to be dark right here and fade out into the light. Just remember, it's either going to be a cylinder or a circle. The body's going to be one of those two, and once you master shading those, then you're just using that same technique over and over and over on the body. And from there's just like this little dip right here between that. And then you, from dark to light, or from hard pressure to light pressure, fading out, fading out. And then you eventually it will round out. Everything will round out once you know how to do this. These two shapes are the most important shapes that you need to work with, because this is a cylinder. This is that circle. Your delts are basically that circle. Your fist can be, it's going to be either both. It's going to be both, kind of like both the cylinders and the flat plane. But there are lines, there are a lot of dips in your hands. So same thing with this, where is it? I don't know. But this line is a line that comes here, been eating too much, you know, and then you go in and out with the shadow. So practice this first, then go back to something like this, and I can go darker. And every pencil has its limit, okay? This is before you tear your paper up. This is cardstock. This is cardstock. This is regular copy paper. So if you're going to be doing a lot of shading or a lot of drawing with, and you're not just going to draw and throw it away. If you're going to draw something seriously and keep it, get cardstock. Get cardstock. Just don't buy regular copy paper, because every pencil has a limit and every paper has its limit. I can keep this until I tear the paper. Cardstock is much thicker. I can almost say it's almost double the thickness of this, but yeah, who knows? So let me see if I can make this darker again. See, like I said, it has its limit and it won't go any darker without tearing the paper up. But the darker you get something on the edge, the more rounder it's going to become. And it's really hard for me to see with this glare. I see my paper is starting to wrinkle right here because it won't go any darker, or it won't take any more pressure. So if I wanted it darker, I'd have to get another B, the B4, B6. I don't know if it's a B8. So as I come this way, I am easing up on my pressure. So that I won't have a definite line that says, oh, he stopped right here. You won't be able to see that. And as I said, I'll go back. If I can't do it with this one, I'll go lighter pencil. And I will go back, very, very light pressure. So I mean, if I wanted to do something like say, okay, this is whatever this muscle is. And I keep saying I'm going to end this video, but once I start drawing, I just get, I get into it. And again, this is the wrong pencil to use. I'm just being lazy and just using this because it's dark and I can kind of vary the shadow real quick. Like that. So I'll keep going. So just practice this. Practice this right here over and over, just the small areas, and get your fade in and out. Remembering the crossing and going up. And if you only have a pencil, regular school pencil, just be very light as you go across, very light. You have to get your flat. Best to just do this until your lead kind of flattens out, and then practice that very lightly, very lightly, very lightly, very lightly, very lightly, and then come back a little dark, a little pressure, and then just ease up, because your regular school pencils are going to be dark to begin with. So it's all about the pressure that you use on it. Don't let anybody tell you any different. Pencil is a pencil. I can do this, I can do this, I can do that, and it's going to be a little darker because of the pressure that I put on it. So, but every pencil has its breaking point. It's only going to get so dark, and then you're going to have to move. So stay light. It makes it easier on your paper, and then go darker. You can only go so dark with this. Switch up to this. You can only go so dark with that. Switch up to another dark one. So that's going to be it for this video. That's probably another hour video. Sorry, I can't make them 10 minutes. I'm going to try. One day I'm going to make a 10-minute video. But yeah, this is going to be it for this video. And the next one, we're going to come back and we're going to do this. Since this one's open, we're going to use this. I wanted to find a drawing that was detailed, but still open at the same time. And where are my other ones? So the next one we're going to do is something with some, where is it? It's 3 stages I want to go through. I'm going to go through this. This is going to be the next one we're going to shade. All right, so this is not too bad because it's still with the body, but it has a costume on. So we want to work on the next one, which is either going to be this one or this one, because they're clothes. When you put clothes in there, you have all these wrinkles and so forth. We put this down too. I don't know, figure out which one we're going to use. And I'm also going to do this crazy face because I'm going to color one of these. We're going to do this face because a lot of people want to do faces or like do faces. We're going to do this guy's face. He's going to be in there somewhere. And then after we do maybe 1, 2, maybe 3, then I'm going to color one of the, whichever one I don't do pencil on, I'm going to color it. And then basically color pencil is the same process. So that's going to be it for this video. And yeah, I'll see you guys next week. Thursday, this should be up on Sunday. It's Saturday now. And yeah. See you. I'm going to ramble. I was thinking of something to ramble about. I'm not going to ramble. Let's throw some pins here. Like people always do that. Throw them pencils there. Like, yeah, look at what I did. I used these pencils to do this stuff. So this is going to be my thumbnail. Let me get this focused because I'm too lazy to do a thumbnail. And I don't need a thumbnail because this is the lesson. This is the lesson. Fancy schmancy thumbnail. All right. Cut this out. Get rid of that shadow. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Keep drawing. Remember, if it's not fun to do, if you're not having fun doing it, it's not fun to do. All right? Later. This is pretty good. It's pretty good. If I did the whole thing, it'd be tight. Anyway, later.